Democrats are renewing calls to pass a war powers resolution after President Trump said this week the ceasefire with Iran is over. And Jay Johnson, you co-authored a new piece on this topic. It reads in part, the Constitution's intended balance between the legislative and executive branches on matters of war powers is broken. You point out we actually have not had in this country an authorization for the use of military force since 2002, before the war in Iraq. So can you just establish first for people, because it's been almost 25 years, what's supposed to happen, what the role of Congress is supposed to be in matters of war?
The founding fathers, the so-called founding fathers, could not have anticipated many things that exist today. In 1789, there was no standing army. It would take weeks, if not months, to go to war. But one of the things that I think they did have right was that in a democracy where there are no kings, no one person should be able to take the nation into war. And so Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says that it's Congress's prerogative to declare war. That provision is a near nullity. It has never worked the way it was intended. In the history of this nation, we've actually only formally declared war 5 times. Yet the president, the commander-in-chief, has deployed the military hundreds of times. And this avoidance of the constitutional provision has only escalated in recent years. The way it's supposed to work is when FDR went to Congress in 1941 after the attack on Pearl Harbor and asked Congress to declare war against Japan. 1990, when George Bush 41 went to Congress and asked for a declaration of war against Iraq after Iraq invaded Kuwait. Even 2001, 2002, after the 9/11 attacks, Bush 43 went to Congress and asked for an authorization for the use of military force. As you point out, the last time that happened was 2002. Now, Congress has effectively gotten out of the business of authorizing military force. And meanwhile, legal interpretations within the executive branch of the president's ability to put the military into hostilities has expanded. Basically, now the prevailing view across multiple administrations is that the president can deploy the military anytime it's in an important national interest, so long as it does not rise to the level of a war in nature, scope, and duration. I think that's almost a quote. Clearly, what we're doing in Iran is a war. It's now in its 5th month. And in the course of writing this article, we interviewed a bunch of former and present members of Congress, including Senator Tim Kaine, who's been a leader in reasserting Congress's role. And he says that the war powers authority of Congress is an atrophied muscle.
So let's ask about, I wanted to ask you about that. It's no surprise, I suppose, that the executive branch would want to expand presidential power. So we get their motivations. But let's talk about the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue. Why do you think Congress has abdicated their role in recent decades?
Because a declaration to go to war, to deploy the military, is a politically dangerous thing without knowing how it's going to come out. The Democratic primary for president in 2008 hinged on how candidates voted for the 2002 authorization to use military force. So there's a dynamic, which I witnessed personally when I was at the Pentagon, where president's considering deploying the troops someplace. Congress says, well, you have the authority to do this on your own. You don't need me. I'm going on vacation. And so Congress has gotten out of the business of declaring war, and the executive branch has filled it.
Kim, as the Secretary said, this is a war, clearly, whatever the President wants to call it. But it's spilling over as well to the country you know very well, Lebanon. And you've been writing in the Financial Times that Lebanon could actually be the thing that thwarts the MOU. Is Benjamin Netanyahu using Lebanon as a way to undermine President Trump's efforts to get out of this war in Iran?
Well, what happened with the MOU, which was then followed by U.S., Israel, Lebanon negotiations, is that they contradict each other. There was a lot of dismay in Lebanon when the MOU was signed between the U.S. and Iran, and it appeared as though the U.S. had handed over Lebanon back to Iran. Lebanon feels stuck between Israel and Iran. Both trading fire in Lebanon, Iran using Hezbollah, and Israel striking southern Lebanon and Beirut. So there was a lot of dismay that after the Lebanese government, with a new president and a new prime minister who are offering and have engaged in these talks with Israel, found themselves suddenly attached again to the Iranian orbit. Then we had renewed direct negotiations between Israel and Lebanon in Washington. There have been several rounds. We expect another round coming up. The Lebanese president might be coming to Washington. So these two are in contradiction, and I think that's where the weakness lies, and that's why Lebanon is such a key element of this. Yes, Benjamin Netanyahu is looking for ways to undermine the MOU. He's not happy with this deal. Very few people are. It's a bad interim deal, but you could argue that it's better than war. However, I do think that the weaknesses in this MOU lead us to exactly where we were last night, renewed strikes, because I think that Iran is misreading this moment as well. It is overreaching, it feels victorious, and it is taunting and goading the United States, and we've seen the reaction yesterday with the strikes by America, which we must point out targeted infrastructure in Iran, some crucial infrastructure on ports, but also rail tracks, which I believe was the one that allowed Iran to export goods through the north into, its northern neighbors into China. So there is some thinking going on behind these strikes, try to limit Iran's capacity to disrupt oil flows. All of this, the contradictions, the different points of view from J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, who seem to be starting their presidential campaigns with very different approaches to how do we deal with Iran, makes me think about a golden quote from from Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser in the late 1950s, who said, "The genius about you Americans is that you don't make stupid, clear-cut, stupid moves. You only make complicated, stupid moves, which makes the rest of us wonder if we're missing something." And at the moment in the Arab world, and I think also here, people are wondering, is there a plan? Is it just, confusion? What exactly is coming next? And I think, what we need to look at are the Israeli elections.